We hope we're gonna go wiser. What you teach us today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Master Kuldeep, and a very, very warm good afternoon to everyone present here. I am Toastmaster Priya, all the way from Kusum Toastmaster from Division N, and today I'm here to conduct an evaluation workshop for you all. Before I begin, a very quick thank you to Toastmasters of Dwarka for reaching out to me and providing me with this opportunity to conduct this workshop for you all. I feel extremely privileged and grateful. You guys have been waiting for a long period of time, and I don't want you to wait anymore, so let's begin. I'd like to share my screen, and I've created a PPT for this, and we would begin with the workshop now. Also, before I begin, may I just request every one of you to please participate in the whole workshop. I may be asking questions in between, and in order to answer those, you can either write in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and speak out the answers. And for the latter, I would request the Tech Masters to conduct it so that it goes smoothly. And this is going to ensure that it's just not going to be me who will be constantly speaking, but there will be interaction from the other side. It's going to be interesting and also probably help in retention of everything that you're going to learn today. With that, let's begin. So sorry, I think that's the last slide. So this is going to be the flow of the workshop today. First, I'm going to start with the introduction to what evaluation is, where I'll be delving to the very, very basics so that we cover all of the fundamentals. Then we are going to talk about the technicalities, in which I basically will present to you all the criteria that I look for whenever I am evaluating a speech. Next, I've got some important tips to share with you all, tips that I've learned in my one-year journey of Toastmasters in the evaluation journey that I've had here. And finally, we'll have a 10-minute question and answer session. If you have got any question, you may type it in the chat box and I'll try to answer them all. First, what is an evaluation? Before I tell my answer to this question, I want to hear from all of you guys what you think evaluation is. If you had to define evaluation in one word, which word would you use? You can unmute yourself and you can speak those words. Or you can type in the chat box.
Feedback.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Feedback.
Feedback, yes. Others?
Analysis.
Analysis. Someone else?
Judgment.
Service.
Okay, judgment. And the next word was?
Service for improvement.
Yes. So all of you are correct. Improvement, judgment, feedback, analysis, these are evaluation. But to me, if I had to define evaluation, I would use a different word. And that word is value. You see, in the word evaluation itself, you have got the word value sandwiched in between. In fact, evaluation itself is also derived from the Latin word value pure, which means to finding out the value of something. So evaluation is an assessment, like you all said. It is an assessment where you are seeing whether with the feedback that you have, you can add some sort of value to the overall project or not. And this definition just does not confine itself to Toastmasters, but to evaluation everywhere. That being said, there is one extra thing when it comes to Toastmasters evaluation, which has increased its worthiness. And that is, in Toastmasters, we do not just assess by saying we are evaluating, we're not just assessing whether the objectives of something is being met or not, but we also incorporate feedback so that the speaker knows what they can do in order to improve. Talking about the basics of evaluation, we all know that it's an integral part of Toastmasters meeting, whether it be the direct evaluation where the direct featured speeches are being evaluated by the direct evaluators, or the indirect evaluators evaluating the meeting, or even the general evaluation. No Toastmasters meeting go without having an evaluation session. But the thing is, most of the time, if you have heard, as soon as the evaluation session comes around, people define it as the most important session of Toastmasters. The Toastmaster of the day, the general evaluator, they all generally start by saying that is the most important session. Can I have your ideas now as to why you think, I'm sorry, but I'm hearing some sort of noise. Can we please mute ourselves? We're not speaking. Thank you so much. So as I was saying, I want to know why you think evaluation is the most important session. You can again unmute yourself and speak.
Because evaluation give us the action map for to plan our next action.
That's an extremely good answer. Yes, it gives us an action map to go forward. Other answers?
Evaluation gives you
Besides-
pointers for improvement.
Yes, extremely good. Yes, thank you.
It gives you the crux of
I think what it does is first,
Yes,
go ahead.
yes, please go ahead.
so what I feel, Priya, evaluation gives us the confidence, what are our strengths. First, it tells us so that we feel confident and exuberant while we go on the stage. And the second, in a subtle manner, it puts which are the areas that we need to work upon. And then if we take note of it and work on it, then yes, we come out a better version of ourselves.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Are there any more answers? Okay, that's fine. I'll move ahead. All of you are absolutely right. All of the answers, they are the correct ones. And I'm going to sum all of them using just one word. The reason why evaluation is the most important session is because of all of these things, which allows us to progress forward. You see, all of us, we may have joined Toastmasters with some sort of objective in our mind. Maybe to some of us, we wanted to improve our speaking skills. To others, the networking aspect of Toastmasters may have enchanted us. Whereas to some, it may be learning leadership skills and honing them. But whatever the objective that you came to Toastmasters with, at the end of the day, we all seek progress. And with evaluation, we get to know how we can progress because we get to see from someone else's point of view, what are the things that we should keep on doing that we already do? And what are the things that we can add on to improve ourselves to move forward? That is why evaluation is the most important session of any Toastmasters meeting. With this, we have completed the basics of evaluation. And I know what you all are waiting for, the most important aspect, the technicalities of evaluation. So I'm going to move right into that. Here, I'm going to first talk about what criteria I generally look at when it comes to a speech. So this is going to be focused more on a featured speech evaluation. And I'll also be talking about the way that I like to craft my evaluations. To me, the first thing that I look at is a content. And in content, I tend to look at the objective, type of speech, and takeaway. For any Toastmasters speech, whether you're giving a speech from the Pathway manuals or the CC manual, every speech is going to have a certain objective, a certain purpose that the speaker is going to rotate, that the speaker is going to use in order to craft their speech. So I make sure that I know that objective. And I tend to make this my first point generally, whether it be in terms of good points or points of improvement. Second is the type of speech, whether it's a storytelling or whether it's an informative speech. Is it a persuasive speech? Is it an emotional speech? Your evaluation criteria is going to differ a lot compared to the different kind of speech it is. So it is important for you to figure out as you're listening what kind of the speech the speaker is talking about, so that you can craft your evaluation to meet the objectives that that particular type of speech is supposed to fulfill. The takeaway, which is the message, and it's very important, since we have come so far in our speaking journey, that our speeches have some sort of message, something that the listeners can go home and ruminate over or even implement in their lives. So this is another factor which is very important for me to be there in a speech. Next, in terms of how the speech has been crafted. Here I tend to look at the organization. Now, a speech can be organized in different ways. So I don't generally tell a speaker that you have to organize it in this manner. They may organize it in terms of chronological way, maybe in a timely manner, or in terms of cause and contrast, compare and contrast, cause and effect, problem, solution, whatever it be. At the end of the day, I should not feel lost when I'm listening to that speech. That is very important. The title justification. Sometimes when I hear a title, I just go, wow, that's an interesting title. But then the speech is nothing related to the title. If that's the case, then you want to make sure that you incorporate it in your evaluation to let the speaker know. Or sometimes the titles are so genius that I make sure that I tell the speaker how beautiful and how wonderful I found it. Tangents. By tangents, I mean, if the speech is revolving around one particular tangent or covers a lot of area, whatever it be, it should not be all over the place or just beat around the bush. Uses of rhetorical devices such as metaphors, similes, analogies, hyperbole in terms of increasing the humor. If those are there, then it's just going to enhance the speech so much. Again, it's going to depend a lot on the type of speech and the objective of the speech, if rhetorical devices are a must or not. So please make sure that all of these criteria are not something that you want to use for every single speech, but these are just general ones that you can play around with depending on what the speech is about. Research incorporation. There are some speeches such as L1P3, whose objective itself is to incorporate a research method. So you have to look into that. Generally, if a speech is more about opinion, I do not ask for research. But if the speaker is talking about facts, then it's always a plus point to have some sort of research there. Delivery, the vocal clarity and variety. Am I able to understand what the speaker is talking about? If the speaker is talking about something very profound and important, do they decrease their voice and slow down their pace? Or if they're talking about something funny, can I hear that in their vocal variety? That is important. Or if they're trying to make a point, do they increase their voice? Do they increase the command over it? That is something that you can look at. The pauses and transition. Again, it is extremely important to have purposeful pauses, meaningful pauses. You cannot just pause at any point and then call it that I've used pause in my speech. Transition, you should be able to know when a speaker is transitioning from one idea to the other. Drama and dialogues. I generally am someone who do not enjoy too much drama in a speech, but if the drama has been done up to the par and it adds just that needed spice to the speech, then that's just. Next is confidence and vocal poise. If the speaker looks confident, if they have that command over their language, then it just oozes out of them and that enhances the whole speech. Body cues, the eye contact, mostly in terms of physical meetings. What is the eye contact like? The nonverbal gestures, facial expression, hand gesture, body gestures. The stance, are their shoulders back? Are their legs shoulder feet apart? The stage covering and purposeful movements. Do they space around the stage too much, or do they not move at all? Are their movements purposeful or not? These are some of the things that I tend to look at when it comes to body cues. And finally, audience engagement. Does the speaker ask questions, try to take examples from the floor? If they're using some sort of props, and I make sure that I comment on them because I think props do deserve some sort of mention. And finally, since we have gone online, I also tend to incorporate at least one online technical evaluation feedback, if their camera is placed properly or not, or if they could have used the stage a little better. Even though we are online, I tend to include that too. A little note I want to mention here is that these are the criteria that I use. Doesn't mean that you have to use them. You may confirm with them, you may disagree with some of them. Again, it's your personal opinion, and you can change with this, you can incorporate this, or you can just even leave some of these out, and that's absolutely fine. But I thought I would share some of the ways in which I tend to look at a speech. Next is the crafting of the evaluation. I generally use a sandwich method in which I have an opening, which is generally a line from the speech or a quote, or if I cannot find anything, I tend to introduce what the speech was supposed to be about. The good points, I generally have a rule of thumb, 3 to 4 good points. Doesn't mean that you have to have 3 to 4 good points. It again depends very much on the speech. A transition from the good points to the points of improvement, again 3 to 4 points and points of improvement. A summary of the good points and points of improvement so that the speaker retains everything better. And finally, closing remarks in order to motivate the speaker no matter what I felt about the whole speech. With this, I would like to next move to the important tips for valuable evaluation. These are the things that I have learned in my journey of evaluation so far, and hopefully you're gonna learn too. First, do your homework. What I mean by this is, if you know you are supposed to evaluate a certain speaker, do your homework and tend to look at what the speech is about. You can look at the objective, you can even skim through the manuals. So many of us, we just go to the meetings and we look at the evaluation sheet, read the purpose and call it a day. But it's always important to understand why this project is being done, what is the whole concept regarding this. Even if you're someone, let's just say, who has completed level 3 and you're in level 4 maybe, and you're doing an evaluation for level 2, if it's a pathways manual, then the project of level 2 may be different than what you had yourself done. In such cases, it is always, always, always a good habit to look at the manual. Also, speak to the speaker. I've found so many times the speakers, they want me, when I'm evaluating them, to look at certain aspects. I have speakers come up to me and say, I always get the recommendation that my vocal variety is not very good, so I would really want you to look at that particular aspect of my speech today. The speaker may have something like that in their mind, so it's always a good habit to talk to them. Also, if you yourself are a speaker, tend to go to your evaluator and talk to them on the same. This is going to ensure that you just do not go there and speak those 3 minutes for the sake of speaking, but add something of value to the speaker. Number B, be specific. Before I explain this point, I want someone from the audience to raise their hand so that I can ask you to do a little, I'll give you a little prompt and I want to speak you on it. Master Kuldeep, will you please help me in this and see if anyone writes me in the chat box or raises their hand?
Shrejita Tyagi is raising her hand.
Shrejita Tyagi, she has raised her hand.
Okay,
Yes,
Toastmaster Rejita. Okay, Toastmaster Rejita. Okay, Shrejita, so sorry.
No
I
worries.
mispronounced your name.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a prompt. Let's just say a speaker had very wonderful organization in their speech. I'll let you imagine what the speech was about, what the organization looked like. You can just do the rest of the imagination, but I want you to now do the evaluation. You have to incorporate this point. You have to tell them that their organization was good. How will you say it?
Okay. Organization as in delivery, I take.
Organization as in how the speech has been crafted.
Okay, so I have to speak on how the speech was crafted.
Yeah, you're giving an evaluation, telling them that that was good. Their organization was good.
Okay. So a fellow speaker, one thing that totally impressed me was today how the speech was crafted by the speaker. The speaker just didn't take what was supposed to, but added something that most of us misses. And that was the start, a beautiful, inspiring start, a very engaging one. And then the speaker took to the body, which was again a very personal story, and then ending with such an inspiring message, which was enough for all of us. And this message we can take with all of us forever. And it's such an inspiring and forever message from the speaker. That's it for us.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Shaditza. Let's have a round of applause for her. If you're doing it, you can give her a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much. So what I want to say with this particular example is, so many times I've heard Toastmasters go up to the stage when they're evaluating and just say, I loved the organization of your speech, it was really good, and then call it a day. But as a speaker, if I'm hearing someone say that, it's not enough for me. So Toastmaster Shrezita actually went one step ahead and made it a little more specific. She said what the opening was like, how the message was inspirational, how there was what happened in the body. So when you're evaluating, you want to do just this. Be specific. Just don't go there and say, oh, I want you to work on your vocal clarity. How can they work on their vocal clarity? What was missing in this speech? What should they do? Those are the things that you want to be specific about. So include details and be specific. That is extremely, extremely important if you want to make sure that your evaluation is valuable. Next, understanding evaluation is an opinion. Generally, I take the examples of evaluation contest for this. You just have one speaker, and then you have got 5, 6 people evaluating the same speaker. And the very interesting thing is, all of these evaluators come up with different points. They're all evaluating the same speaker, the same speech, at the same time, at the same venue, and all of them have different points. In fact, somebody's good point may be somebody else's point of improvement. That has happened a lot. The reason for this is because evaluation is an opinion. Evaluation is not a fact. Why am I telling this? Because I want you to use this when you're evaluating someone next time. Do not go to someone and say, you need to work on your vocal variety. No. Raise your words as opinions. You may want to work on your vocal variety. I think it will help you convey more emotions. This allows you to be more respectful of the speaker. Next, be concise, crisp, and succinct. I remember one of my mentees came to me quite some months back when we were having physical meetings before the whole COVID fiasco. And she said that in a certain meeting, she had 6 points of improvements that she wanted to tell to the speaker, and she wanted to tell all of the 6 points. So she comes to me and she says, Priya Didi, I wanted to tell her all these points because I thought she needed to hear them. But then when we were having the discussion, they told me to cut down to just 3. But I still think that the speaker could use some more help. And I wish I could have told her all of those points. The reason was my mentee was coming from a very, very good place where she wanted the speaker to improve in all of the aspects. But the thing is, when you have too many points to tell to the speaker, you may think you're doing a good thing, but the speaker probably won't remember all of those. Sure, we note down 10, 15 points, but telling those 10 points does not ensure that all those 10 points will be remembered by the speaker. As a result, you want to note down the most important points and tell them so that it's retained better. The speaker will only be able to act on them if he remembers them, if he knows them. If you just bombard the speaker with overwhelming comments, whether in terms of good points or points of improvements, the chances are that they're not going to remember all of those. So pick out your top ones, the most important ones, and go with them. Next, Do not be afraid to help the speaker grow. I've seen lots of evaluators who are extremely afraid when it comes to giving points of improvements to the speakers, because they think that if they tell them they have got these areas lagging behind, the speaker will feel demotivated. But I'd like to go back to one thing that I said at the very beginning of this meeting, that evaluation allows us to progress, and progress is what all of us here are for. And progress is only possible when you have areas of improvement. You see, ladies and gentlemen, perfection is boring to me, because if you tell me something is perfect, it means I cannot improve it. It's pretty perfect in every sense. There is nothing for me to work on. As a result, don't be afraid to tell someone that they need to work on certain areas, because you're only helping them grow. You're helping them progress. If you tell them all the time, oh, you are perfect, then they're just going to remain stagnant at that point. And that is not what evaluation or Toastmasters is about. That being said, you have to ensure that when you are giving those points of improvements, you are being motivating. You don't want to be harsh and critical of the speaker. You want to phrase your words in a very motivating manner, maybe use adjectives which are going to ensure that the speaker feels that these are the areas they lag behind, but they can do it. They have that power in them to deliver the speech better the next time, so that the speaker will want to come back and give that speech again. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your main role as an evaluator. Which brings me to my final point, know your role. My mentor always tells me that as an evaluator, I'm a teacher, and my speaker is my disciple. And I always have to make sure that my disciple is motivated and they will keep on giving speeches. So know your role. Know that you are the Krishna and your speaker is your Arjun. With this, I've come to the end of the evaluation workshop. I would very much love to answer any one of your questions. If you have them, please write in the chat box. And I would be very, very much obliged if Toastmaster Kuldeep would ask those questions. If you just, or I can read them myself.
A big thank you, Toastmaster Priya again. So guys, here is the opportunity to ask whatever is your doubt in your mind. Maybe Priya, we can do it. You can read it, or in case the speaker,
I can read it.
Yeah, they intend to speak. Maybe we'll allow them to speak as well.
I think
Okay.
guest Shweta would like to ask something.
Sure.
She has raised her hand.
Yeah, hi Priya, amazing workshop.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
Shweta, sorry, you are not audible.
Am I?
Sorry, you are not audible. Maybe you can type your question in the meanwhile, then we can.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, okay now.
Yes.
Please go.
Yeah. So I was saying that firstly I was thanking you, Priya, for such a wonderful workshop. It was really productive to attend this workshop. And one thing which I'm curious as a evaluator, at times it happens, especially in this online meetings, being an evaluator and being a Toastmaster for approximately 2 years now, I believe I have a good observation, but at times in this online meeting, I get confused what to say, particularly for the online speakers. See, I know this learning is one thing we shouldn't stop because of this COVID, but then as an evaluator, our new members and experienced members also wish to have a good evaluation. So at times we as an experienced evaluator also get confused what to actually evaluate in this online meeting, because we are restrained to a lot of stuff, especially people who are delivering while sitting. So we don't have anything much to say to an experienced speaker. So what do you say for that?
First of all, thank you so much for your wishes, and thank you for asking that question. It's a very good question, actually. And I think you should not be scared, because the meetings are nowadays online doesn't mean that you have to cut down on the criteria or the points that you can mention. You just have to tweak them a little bit so that you can say what the speaker could have done better for the same criteria. For example, for a normal meeting, maybe you would comment on the speaker's movements. But if I'm sitting down and I am delivering the speech, I'm not going to be moving at all. And that's a criteria that you can talk about. That being said, what if I've got characters in my stories? Let's just say I've got 5 characters or 2 characters. Even though I'm sitting down, I've got these 2 spaces just beside me, and I can use this as space. This is space. So maybe for my character A, I place that character here and talk like this whenever I am talking about their dialogues. And for character B, I do the same on the other side. So you can comment using that if the speaker did that or didn't do that. For audience engagement, let's say, if the speaker can't ask question to a round of audience, they can have polls nowadays. So you can comment on, maybe in order to increase the audience engagement, you could have incorporated polls to ask the audience. So do not be afraid to use the same criteria, but then tweak it a little bit so that you can mention how for online meetings, that same thing can be done differently, which you generally would do for physical meetings. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking it.
Thank you very much, Priya. There's a question from one of the audience, Toastmaster Anune. He says, what is the importance of facial expression while delivering a speech?
Thank you so much for that question. I think facial expressions are really a window to what the speaker is feeling when they are talking about certain things. So like I said, it is going to depend a lot on the type of speech. If I'm giving an emotional speech, I want the audience to feel the emotions that I was feeling during a certain period of time. So if I was talking about a sad incident which happened to me, let's say 5 years back, I cannot smile and say that incident, because then the effect that I want to produce in the audience where they feel sad for me, that's not going to happen. So as a result, it's going to be, your face is going to be a window to what you want the audience to feel and what you are feeling or were feeling when you're delivering that speech. As a result, try to match your facial expressions to what you're talking about or what you want the audience to see, and you're going to be good to go.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Priya.
Any
This is
other
Harish.
questions?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
Priya.
Harish.
Yeah, Priya, my question is that there are different kinds of communication styles. It is direct also, supportive also, informative also. And the communication style which has to be adopted in evaluation is something which is a motivational. So the problem is, if a evaluator has a direct communication style which he follows all the time, then how can he really turn around his communication style and become a motivational kind of thing, who will play a role of a Krishna and motivate his Arjuna?
Thank you so much for that question, Toastmaster Harish. I like to share one incident which happened with me. When I was evaluating once, when it was, I think, my second or third evaluation, I was very, very, very new to Toastmasters at that time. I felt that a speaker did not meet the objective of the whole speech. And I had a very direct way of saying that. So I just went up to the stage and I just said, I think it's better that you repeat the speech again. And I remember another Toastmaster, DTM, came to me afterwards and he said, the word repeat is a very strong word, Priya. And turns out the speaker that I'd asked to repeat the speech again, it was his third time doing that. I, of course, didn't know that beforehand. And as a result, he had felt very, very, very demotivated by that time. And he was just thinking of not giving the speech at all after that. So I went to the speaker again and I talked to him. After that, I've made sure that I don't use the word repeat ever in my evaluations. And even if I have to encourage the speaker to come back and give the speech again, not repeat, come back and give the speech again, I don't say that in front of the whole audience when I'm giving this evaluation, but I reach out to them afterwards and then I talk to them. So my answer to this question will be, number one, if you have something like that, something which is very harsh, something that you think the speaker should know, but then it's something that you think can demotivate the speaker, you can always go to them afterwards and then tell those things. It doesn't necessarily have to be in front of the whole audience. But let's say you have to tell it in the evaluation itself in front of the whole audience. The second tip will be very wary of the words that you use. For example, instead of the word repeat, I can say come back and give the speech again, because I think you can do it better. So your words, the words that you're going to use are going to have a very profound effect on whether the speaker feels motivated or demotivated. And the second tip is, you know how I mentioned in my crafting, I always have closing remarks at the very end. During those closing remarks, even directly, you can say how the speaker is going to be so wonderful in the future if they do this, and use some more direct, encouraging words. And last but not the least, practice. Practice, practice, practice. That's so important. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, thank you, Priya.
Thank you.
Hi, Priya. Ishita this side.
Hi.
I would like
Hi,
to ask a question. How to make your evaluation more creative? For example, when I give my evaluation speech, I start from good points, then the areas of improvements. Then in the last, I'd say, thank you for giving the speech. It was really great. Looking forward for more speeches. So it sounds a bit monotonous and doesn't seem attractive. So how to be more creative with your evaluation speech?
One thing that you can do is you can do pre-homework, like I said, and you can learn some quotes, or you can just increase your knowledge regarding the thing in order to talk about it. One other thing I like to do is I tend to be very, very attentive to small nuances and instances that the speaker has in the whole speech itself. So even if it's like if they just mention that if they are a fan of Harry Potter, then I make sure that I include something related to Harry Potter in between there. Just maybe say, oh, you are the Hermione of the speeches because you are just so good, or something like that. If they talk about a thing that I know about, maybe a current event, then I try to relate it to that. Again, if you previously know who the speaker is going to be, what they are going to speak about, you can search about it beforehand. But if it's very, very intuitive at the time, then you may want to be very attentive to the small details that are there in the speeches. Maybe in the section that you are jotting down the notes, have a different section to have some of these quotes, some of these references. What are maybe if they talk about certain movies or books or people. If they talk about Socrates, then if I know a certain quote by Socrates, I'll include that. So it is all going to be in the details of the speech itself, and you have to be attentive to that and try to play around with it. It's not going to happen overnight. Me too, it took a lot of practice. And even now, sometimes I try to be creative and it just does not happen. So don't beat yourself too much if sometimes you're just not able to come up with something extremely out of the box. But for now, I would say try to look at the details, make a note of them, and play around with it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shita.
Thank you very much, guys. Anyone else?
I have one question. I think this is for all the new members, basically. One thing I have noticed time and again, specifically for the first-time evaluators, is that they struggle in the length of the evaluation. I think it would be better if you can specifically advise the new evaluators, specifically the new members and the new evaluators, how to increase the content in their evaluation. Like, because for them, they just say what are the good points and what they can improve, but still the content at times is even less than 2 minutes. So I think that is something like they can actually benefit from.
Thank you to this Master Parul. Like I said, you may want to have loads of points first of all. Now, either you're going to speak for a very less period of time or you're going to overshoot. So if you tend to overshoot as a new evaluator, then maybe you want to cut down the points to the most important ones and then just talk about those. If you're someone who tends to speak very less, then have some extra points just in case you can incorporate them at the end, even if it's in the closing remarks, number one. Number two, tend to have this set that where you just don't mention what is good and what are the points of improvements. What is the good point? Talk about that. why it was a good point, and what did the speaker do that, okay, let me rephrase it this way. What was a good point? How that point was a good point, I mean, what the speaker did well, and why you felt it was a good point. For example, I loved the dialogues that you had in the, sorry, maybe I'll give you another example. I loved the state architecture that you had. For example, when you placed your mother at this side and your father on the other side, this allowed me to envision everything properly. So there, you see, I said what the good point was, what the speaker did, which made it a good point, and why I felt the need to mention that it was a good point, because it helped me envision everything. So not just mentioning what the points were, but then being a little more specific and adding a little more details is going to help you if you are talking for a very short period of time. If you're overshooting, cut down on the points.
Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Parul.
Thank you very much, Parul. Anyone else having some question?
Yes, this is Trilochan.
Yes,
Hi,
Toastmaster
Priya.
Trilochan,
Thank you
please.
for a nice evaluation section. And I have one question. While giving an informative speech, do you ask the speaker as an evaluator that can you use dramatize and those things in your speech itself, in informative speech?
No, I don't. Like I said, I think drama is like a spice. You know, you use different spices for different foods. If you're making dessert, then you don't put garam masala there. Or if you're making, you're making dessert, then you put baking powder there and not the other way around. So I think drama is something that should pertain to the type of speech that the speaker is talking about. If it's a storytelling, if it's an emotional speech, then yes, drama is going to add value to that. But for an informational speech, necessarily, I don't think drama is going to add any sort of value, unless and until there is some aspect in the whole speech where drama is a necessity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Priya. Any other question, guys?
Kuldeep, I want to ask one question. Anunoy?
Yes, please, Anunay, go on.
Actually, my question is that people, while delivering the icebreaker speech, that is the first speech, I want to know her perception on that. That is it good that one should go for the evaluation first, so that he can get the idea on what parameters the speech is going to evaluate it, and afterwards he or she should give the icebreaker speech.
I don't generally recommend that. I've never seen it happen before as well. But I think for an icebreaker, it's one thing that I personally tend to do whenever I am evaluating an icebreaker speeches. I incorporate more good points and less points of improvements, because this is going to ensure that the speaker feels motivated. That's their first speech, right? So of course, anyone who is giving their first speech wants to make sure that they did a wonderful job so that they feel encouraged to come back again and again. But even if the first step that you take, you fall down, then you may not want to take the whole journey at all. So you want to motivate the speaker as much as you can. If you think about trying this approach, then maybe it's going to work. I've never tried it. So, but that is what I generally tend to do.
Okay, thank you, Priya.
Thank you.
Yes, Veena ma'am, your question, please. Veena ma'am, you are not audible. Can you please unmute yourself? Still, you are not audible, ma'am.
Am I audible or not?
Yes, you are now.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Priya for giving us such a wonderful session on evaluation. I would like to ask you one question. Is it wise to take out some content from the speaker while evaluating?
Okay. Yes, I think it's extremely wise to take some content from the speech itself while you're evaluating. In fact, when I used to study in school, my English teacher would always say that for general points that you're doing analysis of, it's going to be extremely beneficial to you if you take certain excerpts out and then you quote them and then you know, explain it, put it in between the words and you explain it and craft it in that sort of way. And I see evaluation in the same manner. So when you are taking some aspects of the speech itself, it shows that you have been attentive to the whole thing, and it is going to make the whole evaluation very custom, and custom evaluations are always better than generalized evaluations.
Thank you very much, Priya. You know, we would have loved to continue with this question and answer session, but yes, due to paucity of time, I see the screen wherein this red is blinking time and again. But I would like to be a little bit selfish, and then I would like to ask one more question here. The question is, you know, I love the way you pronounce the way you speak. So maybe a tip for me, a guy like me who is very bad at this thing, pronunciation, something that I can, you know, or we guys, we can work upon. Maybe to a certain extent we can go on. Yeah, please.
I think it's all about being confident, being yourself, believing in yourself, and getting out of your head. I think I tend to be not a very good speaker when I'm too much in my head and I'm thinking, oh, what's the other person thinking? So it's all about being confident and knowing that whatever you're speaking is adding value to someone else and they're getting benefit from it. So I think that is going to be my tip.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause for Priya Chapagain, who has